People often say that inner qualities are more important than appearance, but for the female lead in today's movie, beauty is the truth of life. She believes that if you love someone, you have to love a handsome guy, because at least when you argue, seeing the other person's handsome face will make you feel less angry. However, life is not like a dream. Her journey to find the perfect guy turns into a series of tragicomedies. Will a girl with a crush on guys find the man of her life, or will she continue to fall into the traps of the century? Heejin is a girl who has had a strong passion for beauty since she was little. Just seeing handsome guys, her heart beats fast, and her eyes cannot move away. When she entered university, Heejin decided to choose the sculpture department, just so she could realize the image of the perfect guy in her imagination through her works of art. Everyone thought that a girl who values appearance like her would look for an extremely handsome guy to date. However, her best friend was extremely stunned when Heejin introduced her boyfriend, because Bong-soo looked like a clown with a short stature and an unremarkable face. This friend could not understand Hee-jin's strange taste in choosing a boyfriend, while Hee-jin herself was immersed in the sweet gestures that Bong-soo showed her. Bong-soo once gave her a drink with a love note on it. He even knelt down to express his feelings right in the classroom, which made Hee-jin very touched. From then on, Bong-soo always found ways to appear in front of Hee-jin. From kneeling in the classroom, he switched to kneeling all over the campus, and behind him were people holding up signs to cheer enthusiastically. Gradually, Heejin was truly touched by this sincerity. For the first time, she felt that love was the most important thing. Moreover, she also realized that she was just an ordinary girl, so handsome boys would definitely not pay attention to her. One day, Heejin just entered the school and received a gift from Bong-soo. When Bong-soo was about to put a heart-shaped pearl necklace on his girlfriend, he was suddenly bumped into by a skateboarder. The necklace fell to the ground. Bong-soo immediately wanted to settle the score with the young man, but Heejin pulled her lover back in time. She tried to change the subject, saying that she really liked the necklace to ease the situation. After school, Heejin called her lover, but Bong-soo was reading comics in the radio room and deliberately did not answer the phone. Heejin thought her boyfriend was busy, but soon Bong-soo's voice suddenly rang out from the school loudspeaker. Bong-soo was boasting to his friends that he was going on a trip with Heejin and that he had to put in a lot of effort to get her. The harsh truth was revealed. From the beginning, Bong-soo's purpose in pursuing Heejin was only to seduce her to spend the night. He thought he would quickly achieve his goal, but Heejin kept guarding herself, so this time he planned to get her drunk to make it easier to act. The whole school heard this conversation. Heejin imagined Bong-soo's smug face when she treated her like a joke, so she angrily ran straight to the radio room. At this time, Bong-soo's roommate came to find him, and he was shocked to realize that his phone had accidentally connected to the radio system. The rude conversation just now was broadcast, live for the whole school to hear. Bong-soo hurriedly ran out and knelt down to apologize to Heejin. He lied that what he just said was just because he wanted to brag to his friends. Heejin now saw through her boyfriend's true face. She kicked Bong-soo hard and scolded him for being a bad person. Seeing everyone around whispering, Bong-soo felt embarrassed, so he stood up and stopped pretending. He shamelessly exposed Heejin, thinking that she also wanted to be close to him but kept pretending to be noble, and that he had to lower himself a lot to be with her. Heejin couldn't take it anymore. She clenched her fists, took a step back, and punched Bong-soo away. She sternly warned Bong-soo that his face was forbidden to appear in front of her again. After venting her anger, Heejin snatched the pearl necklace and left, but she didn't notice that in the crowd there were two handsome guys who admired her decisive action. One was Ji-gun, a senior in the sculpture department, and the other was Jae-yeol, a design student. Comforted by her two best friends, Heejin made an important decision that from now on, she would only date handsome guys. When she sobered up, Heejin felt extremely embarrassed by the broadcast incident, and wherever she went, she became the center of everyone's gossip. To escape reality, she announced that she would put her studies on hold, which reminded her parents of the incident of transferring schools a few years ago. At that time, a handsome guy suddenly moved in next door, so she immediately happily gave up the idea of transferring schools and tried to approach the neighbor every day. This time, Heejin's mother also secretly hoped that a handsome guy would appear to make her daughter give up her idea of putting her on hold. Heejin's mother's prayer quickly came true when she took the hold form to school and coincidentally met someone asking for directions. That person was Ji-gun, who had just returned to school, and when Heejin raised her head and saw his handsome face, she felt as if the world had stopped. A fantasy scene appeared in her mind, in which Ji-gun was an angel from ancient Greece who was deeply in love with a weak girl, and when the girl turned around, it was Heejin's face. Heejin woke up from her reverie and immediately tore up the reservation form, then enthusiastically led Ji-gun to the library. Seeing Ji-gun holding a book from the sculpture department, Hee-jin thought he was a new student, so when they parted, she gave him her phone number. She introduced herself as the representative of the sculpture department and told him to contact her if he needed anything. Saying goodbye to Ji-gun, Hee-jin happily skipped along the street when she suddenly saw another handsome guy walking towards her. That person was Jae-yul, the guy who had witnessed her beating up her ex-boyfriend the day before. Hee-jin stood there in disbelief that such a perfect face existed in this world. She started to imagine Jae-yul as the male lead in a sports drink commercial carrying his high school girlfriend. And of course, that girlfriend still had her face. Meeting two extremely handsome guys in a row, Hee-jin was sure that continuing to go to school was divinely arranged, and tearing up the leave application was the best decision. Not long after, Hee-jin met Jae-yul again when he had just finished his design assignment with his roommate. The three of them ate and drank as they walked, causing Jae-yul to almost fall over because his friend was feeding him. Hee-jin, who was standing next to him, didn't see that he was steady, so she hurriedly ran over, intending to be the hero saving the beauty. Unexpectedly, Hee-jin was too enthusiastic. She pushed him from behind, causing the tablet in Jae-yul's hand to fly out and the screen to shatter. Hee-jin knew she was the one who caused the trouble, so she agreed to pay for it. But when she saw the tablet worth 2 million won, she quietly asked if she could pay in installments. Without waiting for Jae-yul to answer, she bowed her head in apology and was about to run away, but Jae-yul quickly grabbed her and forced her to give him his phone number to contact him. In a bad mood, Hee-jin went to the sculpture department party to relieve her stress and coincidentally saw Ji-gun walk in. Hearing Ji-gun introduce himself as a returning student, Hee-jin realized that he was her senior. While leading the way for Ji-gun, she accidentally bragged about being a senior, but at this time, a girl next to him told Hee-jin that Ji-gun was the grandson of a wealthy family. Hee-jin felt embarrassed in front of Ji-gun, but after waiting for him to sit down, she still kindly poured him some wine. Seeing that she was uncomfortable, Ji-gun casually joked a few words and said that he didn't drink. The atmosphere became more comfortable. Hee-jin took the initiative to introduce herself and Ji-gun immediately remembered the sculpture he saw in the library. The one that attracted him the most was a statue of a handsome man, and the author's name was Hee-jin. Ji-gun had just come back to his senses when he heard the party organizer asking the new students to raise their glasses to celebrate. He intended to refuse, but the sound of drinking invitations echoed everywhere, and his classmates kept calling his name, making it impossible for him to refuse. Ji-gun picked up his glass of wine, not knowing what to do, when Hee-jin saw his senior in a difficult situation and took the initiative to drink instead. The party atmosphere became more and more exciting. Hee-jin got so drunk that his eyes blurred, and he vaguely saw Jae-yul standing at the door. It turned out that Jae-yul and his friends were also partying at the restaurant next door, and because Hee-jin broke his tablet, he angrily went out to get some fresh air. Seeing that Hee-jin was the one who caused the trouble but was still drinking carefree, Jae-yul felt extremely angry. Hee-jin realized his anger, so she ran over drunk. She lifted his face and said that she ran over to protect this handsome face. Hee-jin affirmed that there was no face more handsome in this world and approached to look at Jae-yul passionately. It should have been a romantic atmosphere, but Hee-jin suddenly threw up all over Jae-yul. The next morning, Hee-jin woke up and remembered the embarrassing scene last night and deeply regretted not keeping her study results. What was more tragic was that as soon as she arrived at school, she saw Jae-yul running towards her to settle the score, making her scared and run away in the crowd. Seeing that Jae-yul was about to catch up, she suddenly saw Ji-gun and quickly hid behind him to call for help. Jae-yul took a step forward to pull her out, but saw a drone flying towards them and panicked, avoiding it. Ji-gun also reflexively leaned to the side, and Hee-jin saw the drone flying towards her and quickly bent down. In the chaos, she accidentally pulled Jae-yul's shirt, causing them both to fall to the ground, with Hee-jin lying on top of Jae-yul. At that moment, the drone hit the balloon, causing countless pieces of glitter to fall, creating a romantic scene for the two of them in an ambiguous position. Hee-jin stared blankly at the handsome face before her eyes, lost in her reverie, unable to recover. After a while, Hee-jin came to her senses. She pushed Jae-yul away and pulled Ji-gun, who was standing next to her, to run away. She took Ji-gun to eat the school's specialties, which were originally reserved for teachers, but because she had a good relationship with the manager, they were saved for her. Ji-gun ate deliciously and was very satisfied. Since he met Hee-jin, his life had become more interesting. He felt that Hee-jin was a special girl and wanted to interact with her more. When passing by the statue of a handsome man sculpted by Hee-jin, Ji-gun stood next to the statue, took off his jacket, posed, and asked Hee-jin if he looked like the statue. Hee-jin Jin had always considered Ji-gun to be an arrogant and indifferent male god. So, when she saw him acting so childishly, she burst out laughing. The two were about to go out for coffee when Ji-gun received a phone call, so he quickly said goodbye to Hee-jin and left. Hee-jin glanced at the phone screen and saw the note, "First Love," so she mistakenly thought Ji-gun had a girlfriend. As soon as Ji-gun left, Hee-jin received a call from the creditor Jae-yeol, so to avoid him, she hung up. Immediately after, Jae-yeol appeared behind her and asked her to go to school with him and copy his notes to compensate for his broken tablet. Hee-jin resigned herself to copying the notes throughout the entire class, and when she got home, she collapsed on the bed, exhausted. Thinking about having to continue copying Jae-yeol's homework in the future, she felt extremely depressed. To pay off the 2 million won, she planned to ask her father for money, but then she heard the landlord calling to ask for an increase in the rent deposit. Reluctantly, Hee-jin had to work part-time at a young art exhibition and pay Jae-yeol in installments. At the exhibition, an artwork called Fate caught her attention. She was a fan of the sculptor named Jae, the author of this work, so she was engrossed in looking at it. A man suddenly came up to talk to her and pulled her out of her thoughts, asking her what she thought of this work. Hee-jin enthusiastically presented her point of view, making the man very pleased and inviting her to have coffee after work. Hee-jin arrived at the cafe on time, accepting a stranger's invitation on their first meeting made her a little nervous. However, because she was a beauty fanatic, when she saw that handsome face again, all her reservations were thrown to the back of her mind. The man introduced himself as A Rang, and the two of them talked about the sculptor named Jae. Hee-jin excitedly shared that the sculptor would come to her school to give a speech, and she would attend no matter what. The two of them had a great conversation, and when they parted, Arang asked for her phone number. Hee-jin lay on the bed, constantly recalling Arang's handsome appearance, imagining him holding a huge diamond ring to propose to her. She was about to agree in her dream when the hateful Jae-yeol brought someone to demand 2 million won. Hee-jin woke up with a start. She quickly transferred the 200,000 won she earned yesterday to Jae-yeol and vowed to quickly pay back the rest. The next day at school, Hee-jin saw Ji-gun carrying a girl in a wheelchair down from the car and mistook the girl for his first love. When Ji-gun temporarily left, the girl pushed the wheelchair but unfortunately fell into the mud. Hee-jin immediately ran to help the girl up and put her in the wheelchair. When Ji-gun turned back and sincerely thanked her, Hee-jin found out that the girl was his younger sister, and First Love was also the nickname he gave his sister. Ji-gun's younger sister was crazy about her brother and always wanted to be the most important person in his heart. After the two brothers parted ways, Hee-jin went to copy Jae-yeol's homework according to the schedule he sent. Seeing her covered in mud, Jae-yeol took off his jacket and put it on her, saying that she was sloppy but showing his concern with his actions. After school, Hee-jin quickly ran away and coincidentally met her best friend in the lobby. Her friend asked her to bring her elbow pads back, and Hee-jin had just put the pads on when Jae-yeol came over. Seeing her like that, Jae-yeol thought she was injured and felt sorry that he couldn't ask her to copy the notes for the time being. Hee-jin then went with the flow and pretended to be injured, and Jae-yeol was immediately fooled. In the mural painting activity that followed, both the sculpture and art departments participated. After the incident at the activity, Jae-yeol seemed to have turned into a completely different person. Regardless of whether Hee-jin wanted to paint or go get the tools, he quickly did it all and kindly told her to rest well. Hee-jin felt quite uncomfortable. She really wanted to tell Jae-yeol straight that she was not hurt, but was afraid that he would be angry when he found out that she was deceived. While hesitating, Hee-jin suddenly saw Jae-yeol sitting unsteadily and almost falling off the chair, so she quickly reached out to support him from behind. Jae-yeol stood up straight. He stared at her completely normal arm and immediately realized that he had been lied to. Hee-jin had no choice but to accept the tools and finish the unfinished work herself. After finishing the mission, she met Ji-gun and started complaining to him that she still owed Jae-yeol 1,800,000 won, not knowing when she would be able to pay it all off. Ji-gun was about to open an offer to help her pay off the debt when Hee-jin saw a poster on the wall about the athletic competition organized by the school. The first prize was a new tablet computer. Hee-jin was very excited and immediately pulled Ji-gun to watch the competition. At first, Ji-gun was skeptical about Hee-jin's strength because she looked quite tall and thin, not like a muscular person. However, Hee-jin's two close friends were very confident. They explained to Ji-gun that Hee-jin was the famous bodybuilder of the sculpture department. While other male students were panting while carrying a bag of cement, Hee-jin could easily carry 3 bags at once. When it was Hee-jin's turn to compete, she calmly took a step back and then swung her fist hard at the boxing ball in front of her. Indeed, she caused a big surprise by defeating all all the other contestants to win first place. Right after receiving the reward of the tablet, she immediately brought it to Jae-yeol to pay off the debt and declared that from now on, she would no longer need to copy his homework for him. Having solved a big burden, she happily left with Ji-gun. Jae-yeol stood still, watching their backs, an indescribable sadness rising in his heart. Actually, what he wanted was not the tablet or money, it was just an excuse for him to approach Hee-jin. He did not want to just cut off contact with her like that. After hesitating for a while, he decided to text her to thank her for helping him copy his homework all this time. At this time, Hee-jin was having dinner with Ji-gun and two friends. Seeing Jae-yeol's message, she decided not to reply. A friend picked up her phone and saw that the two latest contacts were Jae-yeol and Arang. Knowing that both were handsome men, she was extremely excited. Hee-jin described Jae-yeol as an electrolyte drink. His handsome face had completely changed her perception of beauty over the past 15 years. However, she also affirmed that they no longer owed each other anything, so they would not meet again. Her friend curiously asked Hee-jin how she felt about Arang. Hee-jin shared that Arang's existence brightened her up like caffeine, instantly waking her up. Ji-gun, who was sitting next to her, heard this and added that it seemed a bit inappropriate to invite a girl out for coffee the first time they met. He really wanted to tell the three of them that he was also a handsome guy and could definitely be on Hee-jin's boyfriend list. Unfortunately, the girls were still busy talking about Jae-yeol and Arang, so no one paid attention to his thoughts. Meanwhile, Jae-yeol was sitting there staring blankly at his tablet. He still hadn't received a reply from Hee-jin, so he was extremely worried that he would lose contact with her. The next day, when he met Hee-jin at the coffee shop, she acted as if she didn't know him and left without saying hello. Jae-yeol couldn't stand it anymore. He chased after her and asked why she didn't reply to his messages. Hee-jin said bluntly that she had paid off all her debts and they had no reason to see each other again. Jae-yeol angrily replied that he felt very comfortable without seeing her again. However, during class, Jae-yeol couldn't stop missing Hee-jin. Suddenly, countless illusions of her appeared around him, but every time he tried to happily talk to her, he was pulled back to harsh reality. Realizing that he could not forget that figure, he decided to run out of the classroom. At the same time, Hee-jin and Ji-gun were attending a lecture by a famous sculptor. About to meet her idol, she was extremely excited and could not contain her excitement. When the stage curtain slowly rose, the sculptor appeared in front of everyone, making Hee-jin extremely surprised because that person was Arang. She listened to the entire lecture in a daze because she was so surprised and happy. At the end of the lecture, Arang invited her to walk around the campus and excitedly chatted with her, leaving Ji-gun behind like an extra. Seeing Arang reaching out to remove the flower petals from Hee-jin's hair, Ji-gun felt very uncomfortable. At this moment, Jae-yeol suddenly called out Hee-jin's name and walked in front of the three people, saying in a meaningful tone that it seemed like he would have to continue seeing her. Jae-yeol realized that he liked Hee-jin, so he hurriedly ran over to tell her that the two of them could not be separated. Hee-jin was confused and did not understand what he meant, and Jae-yeol suddenly lost all his courage, so he had to make an excuse that she had not returned his shirt the last time she borrowed it. Hee-jin understood and promised to return the shirt quickly. Jae-yeol had no reason to linger around her anymore, so he had to let her leave. Luckily, the school organized an exchange activity between the two departments, and since Hee-jin and Jae-yeol were both class presidents, they were forced to meet to discuss work. After completing the mission, everyone held a party together. During the party, Hee-jin and Jae-yeol lost a game and were forced to drink together. The two reluctantly stood up to prepare for the punishment when Hee-jin was accidentally bumped by a passing waiter. She fell into Jae-yeol's arms. The close distance made Jae-yeol's heart beat faster, but Hee-jin accidentally headbutted him, causing both of them to hold their heads and cry out in pain. The drinking session was ultimately unsuccessful. After the party, Jae-yeol stood waiting for the bus with Hee-jin. Seeing a truck coming, he quickly pulled Hee-jin back to avoid danger, but accidentally caused her to be splashed with dirty water by the car behind. Seeing Hee-jin angry, Jae-yeol felt extremely frustrated because he wanted to please her, but everything always backfired. When he got home, Hee-jin angrily told her friends about the bad luck she had whenever she was with Jae-yeol. The next day during class, Hee-jin asked Ji-gun to be her model. When she saw the finished work, she praised the handsome model so she could become a famous painter just by drawing freely. Ji-gun was very happy to be praised. He joked that he was very confident in his beauty. While they were chatting happily, the two saw Arang appear. He went to work at school and conveniently visited Hee-jin. Looking at Hee-jin's sketch, Arang praised her for her talent in painting. Hee-jin immediately took the opportunity to invite Arang to participate in the bar graduation interview because this was the task assigned to her by the student council. council. Arang thought for a moment and then agreed. Normally, he hardly accepted interviews, but because the person inviting him was Hee-jin, he made an exception. Unexpectedly, she was favored by her idol so much. Hee-jin felt extremely shy. Immediately after, Arang approached and removed a flower petal from her hair, making Hee-jin feel like she was lost in a dream. She was extremely happy. This scene happened to be seen by Jae-yol and his roommate. The roommate thought that Arang was patting Hee-jin's head, so he joked about the ambiguous atmosphere between the two. Jae-yol was extremely jealous, but he had no right to go and drag Hee-jin away. Hee-jin kept remembering Arang's smile. She was completely unable to resist his charm. Ji-gun also realized that Arang seemed to have feelings for her, and Hee-jin was secretly happy because she thought she had successfully conquered her idol. She was still in a daze and didn't want to guess what Arang thought of her. Just being able to contact him was enough to satisfy her. But she didn't know that Jae-yol, who also thought that Arang had feelings for her, was unable to keep calm. Jae-yol and his roommate were accepted into the Young Creative Arts Center, and when they arrived to check in, they didn't expect that their next-door neighbor would be Arang. Arang took the initiative to shake hands with the new neighbors. Jae-yol's roommate was embarrassed by the favor and quickly shook hands back, while Jae-yol acted hostile and ignored his goodwill handshake. The interview began, and all three girls in the group, including Hee-jin, stared at Arang without taking their eyes off him. Being in close contact with a famous sculptor and a handsome guy at that, no one could resist his charm. Arang's eyes were always on Hee-jin, and she didn't hide her feelings for him even in public. Jae-yol saw the two exchanging affectionate glances and felt uncomfortable. During the break, two other girls came to ask Arang some professional questions. Seeing that Hee-jin was also planning to follow, Jae-yol immediately used the excuse of needing her help to pull her into his private office. After the break, Jae-yol went to the next room to find Arang and accidentally saw Arang caressing the face of one of the other two girls. Their posture looked like they were flirting with each other. He calmly walked over to remove the microphone for Arang and discovered that during the break, Arang had forgotten to turn it off. After the interview ended, Hee-jin thanked Arang for her help, and Arang immediately invited her to come over alone next time. Hee-jin received Arang's permission signal, so she shyly agreed. Everyone started to pack up to leave, but the other three were busy, leaving only Hee-jin and Jae-yol behind. Hee-jin tried to arrange the things, but because of her limited height, she couldn't reach the box above. Jae-yol stepped forward to help and accidentally hugged her. The close contact and height difference created an extremely romantic atmosphere. Jae-yol stared at her intently, unable to take his eyes off her, making Hee-jin a little shy. She quickly escaped from his arms. About to leave, they discovered that the door was locked. Jae-yol tried to open it but couldn't. The two took out their phones to call for help but found that there was no signal. While waiting for someone to pass by to call for help, Hee-jin started telling ghost stories to Jae-yol, making him so scared that he covered his ears and didn't dare to listen. Hee-jin finally found Jae-yol's weakness, so she happily laughed at him for being cowardly. Time passed by minute, second by second. Hee-jin started to want to go to the bathroom. She pulled Jae-yol's shirt and looked at him with pleading eyes, hoping he would think of something. Jae-yol understood her dilemma, so he took out a hammer from the toolbox and broke the lock. Coming out of the bathroom, Hee-jin saw that Jae-yol's hand was injured, so she carefully put a band-aid on him and thanked him for his heroic help. Taking advantage of the moment when their relationship was calming down, Jae-yol advised her that Arang didn't look very good and that she shouldn't hang out with him. Not only did Hee-jin not listen to his advice, but she also thought that Jae-yol was being rude by talking behind someone's back. The next day, the model that the sculpture department had invited suddenly got sick and had to take a leave of absence, so Ji-gun volunteered to be the replacement model. Hee-jin immediately refused because Ji-gun was also a student of the sculpture department. He could not neglect his studies because of modeling. At this moment, she saw Jae-yol walking out of the office, so she pulled him into the classroom and asked him to be a model. Jae-yol had never been a model before, so he was a bit embarrassed. Seeing this, Ji-gun deliberately provoked him, saying that if he couldn't do it then let him do it. He had experience anyway. Jae-yol's pride was stimulated, so he immediately unbuttoned his shirt. He put his hands on his hips and posed confidently. Hee-jin was attracted by Jae-yol's handsome appearance. Once again, she felt a strong attraction from him, but she didn't understand why Jae-yol kept staring at her. His eyes made her feel like they were the male and female leads in a love story at first sight. Realizing that she was thinking too much, Hee-jin quickly stopped and told herself that Jae-yol was not the male lead of a romance novel, but a devil. She absolutely could not let the devil's eyes charm her. At the end of class, Hee-jin gave Jae-yol water to thank him. Before the two could finish talking, she received a call from Arang, inviting her to come to his office tomorrow. Jae-yeol remembered the image of Arang flirting with girls, so he wanted to advise Heejin not to come. But knowing that she didn't like to hear him bad-mouthing others, he kept quiet. Heejin bowed to thank Jae-yeol and returned to class. In the evening, she excitedly shared the good news of meeting Arang tomorrow with her best friend and Ji-gun. Her best friend thought that this was clearly a date invitation. Ji-gun also seemed a bit sad when he heard that, but he still chimed in. Heejin happily went to Arang's office, but as soon as he reached the door, he met Jae-yeol. Jae-yeol couldn't keep calm anymore. He imagined Heejin and Arang being affectionate and about to kiss, so he was determined to ruin this date, deliberately filled in his food delivery address as Arang's office. At this time inside, Arang was holding Heejin's hand to teach her sculpture. The romantic atmosphere was suddenly broken by the delivery man. Jae-yeol took the opportunity to poke his head in to check on the situation, but Arang quickly saw through his neighbor's thoughts and immediately took Heejin to the park to continue their date. Jae-yeol stayed there, feeling as if he was sitting on hot coals. To verify whether Arang was really a womanizer, he took out the microphone from the interview and listened to the recording again. The conversation between Arang and the other girl seemed to have revealed something, causing Jae-yeol to clench his fists in anger. He immediately ran to the park to find Heejin and pulled her hand away. Heejin tried to break free with a puzzled expression, asking him why he was here. Jae-yeol eagerly said that Arang was not a good person and firmly opposed her being with him. In his anger, he also blurted out that Heejin had been emotionally cheated on and advised her not to repeat the same mistake and become a womanizer. Heejin was deeply hurt by this statement. She sternly warned Jae-yeol that her love affair was a private matter. It had nothing to do with him and forbade him to interfere. Jae-yeol had no choice but to block Ji-gun's way. He let Ji-gun listen to an important recording he found. In the recording, a girl, after spending the night at Arang's house, asked hopefully if she could get the title of girlfriend. Contrary to expectations, Arang replied with a contemptuous tone, thinking that spending the night was no big deal, and only vaguely promised that he would give her the title in the future. Realizing that Arang was a two-timer, entangled with other girls while being ambiguous with Heejin, the two boys quickly discussed countermeasures. They were determined to find a way to break up this relationship without letting Heejin know the true cruel side of their idol. In order to minimize the damage to her, Ji-gun immediately decided to hire a private detective to thoroughly investigate Arang's private life. The private detective quickly sent back photos of Arang being intimate with many different girls. The truth was exposed. Arang was actually just someone who took advantage of the name of a famous sculptor to deceive the poor. Feelings of naive female university students, Ji-gun immediately informed Jae-yeol of this shocking truth. Both of them understood that no matter how much the truth might hurt Heejin, they could not continue to hide it from her. Ji-gun hurriedly called Heejin, only to find out that she was on her way to Arang's exhibition. It turned out that after arguing with Jae-yeol that night, Heejin had returned to find Arang and was surprised to find that he was still waiting for her there. She worriedly asked about their real relationship. Arang immediately answered vaguely, implying that he did not casually bring others into the office and did not easily date anyone. Heejin was perceptive, so she immediately realized the sweet hidden meaning in his words and secretly rejoiced. The next day, Arang went near the school to meet Heejin. When the two were preparing to go out for coffee, a food delivery man suddenly drove past and almost hit Heejin. Arang quickly hugged Heejin to protect her, then conveniently held her hand tightly. Immersed in happiness, Heejin was overjoyed. She believed that this handshake meant that the two were officially dating. Returning to the dormitory, Heejin could not hide her joy. She hurriedly shared her new relationship with her roommate. Knowing that tomorrow was the last day of the exhibition, the roommate asked Heejin to give flowers to Arang as her official girlfriend. The next day, Heejin excitedly carried a bouquet of flowers to the exhibition. On the way, she received a call from Ji-gun, but what surprised her was that when Ji-gun learned that she was going to the exhibition, he immediately hung up without saying another word. At this time, Heejin still did not know that Ji-gun and Jae-yeol were rushing to the exhibition on their motorbikes to stop her. At the exhibition, Heejin accidentally stepped on someone's shoe, so she had to go to the restroom to fix herself up. When she came out, she caught a glimpse of Arang. To surprise her lover, she quietly followed him, but this surprise immediately turned into extreme horror. She witnessed with her own eyes Arang passionately kissing a female student in the student council. The bouquet of flowers in her hand fell to the ground. The noise woke up the two people who were immersed in a passionate kiss. At the same time, Jae-yeol and Ji-gun also ran over, panting. The two wanted to take Heejin away immediately to avoid further injury, but she insisted on staying staying to demand a satisfactory explanation. She walked up to Arang, suppressed her anger and asked him why he had deceived her to play this ambiguous game. Arang brazenly replied that he had never said he wanted to date her, and that it was all because she was being sentimental. After confirming that the other female student from the student council had also been deceived by Arang, Heejin was extremely angry. She stormed straight into the exhibition room. In front of many reporters and guests, she resolutely poured a bucket of ice-cold water on Arang's head. Seeing that Arang was about to protest, Ji-gun stood up to deal with the consequences while Jae-yul took Heejin away first. Once outside, Heejin could not contain her sadness. She sat down on the ground and sobbed. Jae-yul quietly took off his coat and covered her head, giving her some space to comfortably vent her emotions. When she calmed down, Ji-gun drove her home. On the way, Ji-gun kept telling jokes to make her happy. Seeing her smile, he breathed a sigh of relief, because seeing her sad made him feel extremely hurt. Back at the dormitory, Heejin told her roommate the whole story of being deceived. Her roommate comforted her and gave her advice, pointing out that now Heejin's only viable boyfriend candidates were Jae-yul and Ji-gun. After 2 failed relationships and consecutive encounters with 2 playboys, Heejin felt completely incapable of judging people, so she decided from now on she would not fall in love again. The roommate quickly advised her, saying that Heejin had known Jae-yul and Ji-gun for a long time, enough time to judge that the 2 of them were good people and not playboys. Heejin thought about what her friends said. She felt that Ji-gun had a younger sister, so his attitude towards her was as caring as the way he took care of his sister. As for Jae-yul, although there were many ambiguous moments when she was with him, Jae-yul's usual sharp tongue made her feel that he just liked to tease her for fun. The roommate's prayer of punishing the bad guy quickly came true. The news reported that Ji-gun's family corporation had officially canceled its sponsorship of Arang. Photos of Arang being intimate with many victims were also widely published, causing him to be considered the bad apple of the sculpture world, and his reputation to be ruined. In another development, Jae-yul covered his face and rode his motorbike to spray pepper spray on Arang as a practical act of revenge for Heejin. After punishing the scoundrel together, Jae-yul and Ji-gun began to probe each other's feelings for Heejin. Neither of them wanted to reveal their true thoughts first, but they secretly considered each other rivals. Heejin was completely unaware of the 2 boys' feelings. When she met Jae-yul at the student council, she solemnly thanked him for stopping her from being deceived by the scoundrel again. Jae-yul wasn't sure if Heejin had really calmed down or was just trying to act comfortable, but he felt quite satisfied that at least the 2 of them were no longer as fiercely opposed as before. One day, Heejin and Ji-gun went to lunch together. Coming out of the cafeteria, they saw Jae-yul's group filming a promotional video. Heejin couldn't help but admire Jae-yul, working with such a serious and professional attitude. She never thought she would see such a charming and attractive Jae-yul. While he was watching, the crowd suddenly became crowded. Ji-gun was afraid that she would fall, so he immediately held her hand and pulled her out of the crowd. This intimate scene happened to be seen by Jae-yul, causing his heart to ache. At the group celebration party that night, he kept remembering that image of holding hands and kept using alcohol to drown his sorrows. In his drunken state, Jae-yul looked for Heejin's phone number in his contacts, but didn't have the courage to call. When he was so drunk that he fell to the ground, a roll of banners suddenly rolled down from the stairs. Seeing the school's name printed on the banner, he took the initiative to roll it up for him. When he stood up and looked up the stairs, he was extremely surprised to see that the person standing there was Heejin. He thought he was hallucinating because he missed her so much. His thoughts suddenly drifted back to the past. That year, when he went to look for his classmate, he fell in love with Heejin at first sight. In order to have more opportunities to meet her, after being discharged from the army, he deliberately took the entrance exam to this school. But unfortunately, when they met again, Heejin already had a boyfriend. After that, the 2 gradually had contact and went together until now, but he still never had the courage to confess. At this moment, in the drunkenness and pent-up jealousy, Jae-yul could no longer hide his feelings. He looked at her and said that she kept annoying him, and it seemed like he had fallen in love with her. After hearing Jae-yul's sudden confession, Heejin began to imagine him kneeling down to propose to her with flowers and a ring in his hand. The scene changed to her wearing a pure white wedding dress, happily walking towards the waiting Jae-yul. It should have been a moment of complete happiness, but unexpectedly, the police appeared and said they wanted to arrest her for delusions of power. Heejin refused to admit her guilt. She begged Jae-yul to help her prove that she was not delusional, but Jae-yul's gentle face suddenly turned fierce. He mocked her that she was not qualified to marry him. Heejin woke up from her strange dream with a start. She felt like she was being self-indulgent. Maybe maybe Jae-yeol was just drunk and talking nonsense last night. The words, "I like you," probably meant nothing. When Hee-jin met Jae-yeol at school today, she felt a little shy, but Jae-yeol seemed to have no memory of the bold confession last night. Hee-jin reminded him of his childish actions when he was drunk on the street, and finally timidly mentioned that he had confessed to her. Hee-jin thought Jae-yeol would use the excuse of being drunk to deny or explain away the matter. Unexpectedly, Jae-yeol looked straight into her eyes and clearly said that he really liked her. Hee-jin was extremely confused by Jae-yeol's firm assertion. During the meeting afterward, she couldn't help but secretly stare at his face. Thinking back, she still couldn't believe that Jae-yeol really liked her. She suspected that this was just a new trick he used to bully her. After school, Hee-jin asked Ji-gun to go to the library, but Ji-gun was called back by a girl to ask her a question, so Hee-jin had to go alone. She looked for a seat and saw Jae-yeol standing out from the crowd. Jae-yeol coldly rejected a male student who wanted to sit next to him, but when he saw Hee-jin, he waved to her and said that he had saved her a seat. Hee-jin didn't understand what Jae-yeol was planning, so she asked him straight out what she had done wrong this time. Jae-yeol suddenly confessed his love, then kindly saved her a seat, and kept glancing at her while studying, making Hee-jin even more confused. Jae-yeol approached her, looked at her with gentle eyes, and told her to think carefully about why he was doing all of this. Before Hee-jin could say anything, the library suddenly lost power and went dark. At this time, the loudspeaker announced that everyone should move down to the first floor, using the emergency stairs. During the chaos, someone bumped into Hee-jin. Jae-yeol quickly caught her and told her to hold onto his sleeve to go downstairs. Hee-jin shyly grabbed his sleeve and smoothly moved down to the first floor, safely. Jae-yeol wanted to spend more time with Hee-jin, so he suggested that there was a good place to study and invited her to go there. However, being alone with Jae-yeol made Hee-jin feel uncomfortable, so she lied that she wanted to go home and rest. Saying goodbye to Jae-yeol, the two roommates took Hee-jin to another place to study by herself and even called Ji-gun to come along. As soon as the four of them arrived, they unexpectedly met Jae-yeol and his roommate. Seeing Jae-yeol's scrutinizing gaze, Hee-jin felt very embarrassed because she had just lied to him. At this moment, Jae-yeol's roommate appeared carrying a lot of food and insisted on taking everyone to eat barbecue. The self-study plan was cancelled, and the group went to Jae-yeol's studio to sit together. Jae-yeol intimately adjusted Hee-jin's shirt in front of everyone, making the atmosphere awkward. Ji-gun realized Jae-yeol's public pursuit and Hee-jin's discomfort, so he also took the initiative to pick up meat for her. But Jae-yeol was faster. He put the meat in Hee-jin's bowl before Ji-gun. Jae-yeol was unhappy when Hee-jin called Ji-gun oppa intimately, but politely called him senior. Everyone at the table realized the hidden tension between the two boys. To change the subject and break the stuffy atmosphere, Hee-jin suggested going to buy water. Ji-gun volunteered to go, but Jae-yeol refused to give up, so he insisted on going with him. When they arrived at the convenience store, Jae-yeol jealously asked why Ji-gun kept following Hee-jin around, and he questioned whether Ji-gun liked her. Ji-gun did not answer directly, but instead warned Jae-yeol that if he was being nice to Hee-jin, just to tease or play around, he should stop. Jae-yeol seriously assured Ji-gun that his feelings for Hee-jin were completely serious. After the heated confrontation, the two returned to the studio to see black smoke billowing from inside. Realizing that Hee-jin might be in danger, the two ran inside. It turned out that after the two went out, the smoke from the barbecue had triggered the fire alarm. The panicked roommate poured water on the grill to cool it down, but the water mixed with hot grease made it smoke even more fiercely, causing the automatic sprinkler system to activate, throwing the studio into chaos. Jae-yeol ran in first and saw that everyone had run out to stand in the hallway. Only Hee-jin was still inside, trying to check and protect the filming equipment. He anxiously pulled Hee-jin out and carefully checked to see if she was injured anywhere. After confirming that Hee-jin was safe, he breathed a sigh of relief. The two roommates teased Hee-jin that Jae-yeol's gaze towards her just now was full of affection. It was obvious that he liked her a lot. Hee-jin herself also felt Jae-yeol's sincere concern. She lay on the bed recalling her friend's words. Just at this moment, Jae-yeol called. He asked if she had gotten home safely. Hearing that she sounded a little cold, he kindly told her to cover herself carefully with the blanket and rest early. Hee-jin remembered Jae-yeol's caring actions after confessing, and her heart also began to flutter. The next day, she saw a bag of cold medicine on her desk. Remembering Jae-yeol's words last night when he told her to rest early, she immediately assumed that this bag of cold medicine was given by Jae-yeol. At the same time, Jae-yeol coincidentally met his mother walking with a professor in the school. His mother was a person with a rich love life. She changed boyfriends like changing clothes. He originally did not want to interfere in her private life, but this time, time, his mother targeted the professor right next to him. Jaeol had no choice but to beg his mother to think about her son's feelings and not get involved with the people around him anymore. Hearing this, his mother blamed him for being an unfilial son who prevented her from finding happiness. Jaeol angrily exposed the bitter truth that his mother had brought him along all those years ago, only to get child support from her father, not because she loved him. His mother was not convinced by her son's words, so they argued loudly and left unhappily. Jaeol sadly went to the studio to find Hee-jin. He remembered the first time he met her. She was busy in the sculpture room with her hair down. He asked Hee-jin why she didn't tie her hair up neatly. Seeing her hands covered in plaster, he walked over and gently tied her hair for her. The atmosphere became ambiguous, making Hee-jin even more unable to control her heartbeat. After tying her hair, Hee-jin saw Jaeol take out a pack of cold medicine from his pocket and told her to take the medicine on time. Hee-jin suddenly realized that the pack of cold medicine that morning was not given by Jaeol. Jaeol immediately guessed that it was given by Ji-gun, so he grabbed Hee-jin's hand and domineeringly emphasized that she must take the medicine he bought. The next day, Hee-jin and her two friends see a poster posted in school announcing that senior Han So-yeon will return to school to preside over the founding anniversary celebration. Han So-yeon, who had joined the TV station right after graduating, was a model of a beautiful and talented woman that made all three people admire her. From afar, only Jaeol looked at Han So-yeon's poster with a pensive expression, as if he was recalling something from the past. Recently, the sculpture department entered a tense midterm exam. When the teacher commented on each person's work, Hee-jin, who was always at the top of the class, was unexpectedly severely criticized this time. The teacher pointed out that her work lacked passion, and if she didn't focus more, the number one position would soon be replaced by someone else. Hee-jin was extremely sad because if she didn't get first place, she would lose her scholarship, and she didn't want her parents to have to work hard to pay for the expensive tuition. Ji-gun saw her sad, so he took her to the riverside to get some fresh air. He gently comforted her that this was just a temporary setback. As long as she tried her best, she would definitely overcome this difficulty. With Ji-gun's encouragement, Hee-jin was able to get rid of her worries and regain her confidence. When she got home, Hee-jin saw the cold medicine bag on the table and couldn't help but think of Jaeol. She remembered the sweet moment when Jaeol tied her hair. Her face couldn't help but blush, and her heart beat faster. Hee-jin was sure that she really liked Jaeol. The next day, Hee-jin happened to meet Jaeol at school. The beautiful memories from when they first met were like a slow motion movie in her head. The two of them walked and talked happily, but after a few steps, they met Ji-gun. Ji-gun thought they went to school together and looked confused. Hee-jin quickly explained that they just met by chance. Hearing that, Jaeol grumbled that Hee-jin didn't need to explain, since it was fine for them to go to school together. Ji-gun got competitive and deliberately asked Hee-jin if she felt uncomfortable last night when she went to the riverside to get some fresh air. He put his hand on his forehead to check if Hee-jin had a fever, but Jaeol was quicker and used his body to shield her. Hee-jin also avoided Ji-gun and didn't let him touch her. The secret war between the three was suddenly broken by So-yeon's appearance. Everyone, including Hee-jin, had to exclaim that So-yeon was so beautiful and charismatic. So-yeon walked step by step towards Jaeol and asked how he was doing. Hee-jin witnessed So-yeon calling Jaeol to go somewhere else to talk and realized that the relationship between the two was not normal. She felt self-conscious and laughed at her own naivety, thinking that only outstanding girls like So-yeon were worthy of Jaeol. Although Hee-jin tried to hide her feelings, Ji-gun and her two roommates still noticed her abnormality. At this time, a roommate accidentally saw a photo of Jaeol and So-yeon on the school website. It turned out that Jaeol and So-yeon used to be a famous couple before Jaeol transferred schools. Hee-jin was deeply hurt by the sweet photos of the two. The point that she was absent-minded the whole class. Because she lost concentration, she accidentally cut her hand with a knife. Ji-gun felt sorry for her when she was injured and wanted to bandage her, but Hee-jin just forced a smile and explained that it was normal to get injured when studying sculpture. He didn't need to worry. After school, Hee-jin was leaving alone when Jaeol hurriedly ran over to call her back. It turned out that Jaeol had also seen the photo online. He was worried that Hee-jin would misunderstand, so he ran over to explain. However, when he met Hee-jin, he was confused and didn't know where to start. Hee-jin remembered the scene of Jaeol standing next to So-yeon, and she felt even sadder. To avoid it, she made an excuse that she was busy and hurriedly left. To help Hee-jin ease her sadness, Ji-gun specially brought his sister along and invited Hee-jin to eat. Hee-jin took the two brothers brothers to eat a popular sandwich that they had never tried before. This new experience made the two Ji-gun brothers very excited, because every time they were with Hee-jin, they always had interesting surprises. Ji-gun's sister cleverly realized that her brother liked Hee-jin, so when they were parting, while the two were not paying attention, she secretly took a photo of them standing next to each other. The roommate who had originally planned to go together had an emergency, so Jae-yeol found out and immediately asked to go with Hee-jin instead. The director saw that the two were handsome and beautiful, so he arranged for them to play the role of a couple. During the rehearsal, Jae-yeol took this opportunity to explain the relationship between him and Seo-yeon. He was disappointed because Hee-jin had never asked him about this and had only speculated on her own. Seeing that Hee-jin was willing to stop and listen, Jae-yeol seriously explained that he and Seo-yeon were no longer related to each other, and he hoped Hee-jin would not misunderstand. Hee-jin's heart began to glimmer with hope again, and she did not refuse when Jae-yeol held her hand during the performance. It was raining heavily that day. Jae-yeol took off his coat to shield her from the rain, and that moment made Hee-jin's heart flutter. The painting props on the set got wet in the rain, making the director worried, so Hee-jin took the initiative to fix the painting. Jae-yeol stood by her side watching her work, his eyes filled with sympathy for her. Back at the dormitory, Hee-jin told her roommates about her current, ambiguous relationship with Jae-yeol. One friend thought that Jae-yeol and Seo-yeon were in the past, and even if they kept in touch, they were no longer lovers. The other friend thought that they had loved each other deeply since high school, so there was a possibility of rekindling their old love. After discussing, everyone thought that if Hee-jin trusted Jae-yeol, she could try to get to know him, but if she still had doubts, she should stop at the right time. Hee-jin was extremely confused, and she tossed and turned all night thinking about what choice she should make. She remembered Jae-yeol's serious expression when he explained his relationship with Seo-yeon and decided to trust him. The next day, Jae-yeol invited Hee-jin to eat pasta together tomorrow. Hee-jin understood this as an official date invitation. After a mental struggle, she decided to trust Jae-yeol and agreed to meet him privately. Returning to the studio, Hee-jin shyly asked Ji-gun if Jae-yeol inviting her to eat alone was considered a date. Ji-gun saw that she was looking forward to the date and couldn't help but feel sad. When the work was about to be finished, Ji-gun saw that Hee-jin's nose was covered in plaster dust. Seeing that she didn't notice, Ji-gun gently approached to help her wipe it off. At this moment, Jae-yeol's voice interrupted that action. Jae-yeol wanted to talk to Ji-gun privately. He questioned Ji-gun whether he didn't realize his feelings for Hee-jin or was deliberately hiding it. Ji-gun explained that he and Hee-jin were just normal friends. Jae-yeol didn't believe it, so he returned the wallet that Ji-gun had dropped and warned him not to be intimate with Hee-jin anymore. When Ji-gun took Hee-jin home, he saw her happy figure after getting out of the car, opened the wallet, and looked at the photo of him and Hee-jin for a long time. Jae-yeol remembered the scene of Ji-gun approaching Hee-jin, and his jealousy arose again. In order to attract Hee-jin's attention, he called her to meet her at 7 p.m. tomorrow at the subway station entrance. Before hanging up, he heard Hee-jin call him Oppa. He was so happy that he rolled around on the bed in anticipation of the date. Hee-jin was also very happy. She thought that the two of them were in the sweetest, ambiguous phase. But this joy didn't last long. The next day, she saw Seo-yeon and Jae-yeol together again. Seo-yeon wanted to talk to Jae-yeol alone, but was coldly rejected. During class, Jae-yeol recalled what happened a few years ago, when he and Seo-yeon were deeply in love. But on his birthday, Seo-yeon suddenly wanted to be apart for a while. He didn't understand why, but Seo-yeon said bluntly that being with him made her feel bad. After calming down, he wanted to hold on to their feelings, but he learned that Seo-yeon had gone to study abroad, and she didn't even say goodbye. 2 years later, Jae-yeol saw Seo-yeon on TV. He thought they would never see each other again, but she appeared and turned his life upside down. Jae-yeol came to his senses and prepared to go on a date with Hee-jin. But as soon as he left the classroom, So-yeon stopped him. So-yeon wanted him to have dinner with her. Jae-yeol couldn't hold it in anymore and shouted loudly. He said that she was the one who suggested breaking up, and she was also the one who left without saying goodbye, and he had no obligation to wait for her forever. Unexpectedly, So-yeon said that she never said goodbye, she just needed time to calm down, which meant that she would still come back to him. Jae-yeol didn't want to play word games. He scolded her for being as capricious as before and begged her not to come looking for him again. Hee-jin didn't know about the problems between the two, so she was still anxiously waiting for Jae-yeol at the train station. Seeing Jae-yeol appear, she happily waved goodbye, but soon after, she saw So-yeon chasing after him. So-yeon thought that Jae-yeol being angry with her proved that he still had feelings, so she couldn't accept it, so she chased after him to confirm. Seeing the two of them entangled endlessly, Hee-jin's heart gradually grew cold. She felt like a clown standing here, interfering in someone else's love affair. In order not to be too embarrassed, she sadly turned around and left. Seeing this, Jae-yeol firmly pushed So-yeon's hand away, ran over, grabbed Hee-jin's hand, and kissed her right in front of So-yeon. But Hee-jin thought he was deliberately using her to annoy his ex-girlfriend. Because she was so heartbroken, she didn't want to hear any explanation and angrily left. When she got home, Hee-jin looked at the pile of clothes on the bed and hated the date she had painstakingly prepared. But in the end, it all turned into a joke. Jae-yeol was also upset, and as soon as he got home, he received a text message from So-yeon. She made it clear that even if he kissed another girl right in front of her, her feelings would not change. The next day, Hee-jin ran into Jae-yeol as soon as she got to school. She was eager for a clear answer, so she took the initiative to ask what the kiss yesterday meant and whether the two of them could be considered dating now. Seeing Jae-yeol's hesitant expression because So-yeon was disturbing her mind, Hee-jin was completely disappointed. She was even more certain that he was just taking advantage of her, and she angrily criticized him for being a terrible person, just like her ex-boyfriend. Returning to the studio, Hee-jin confided in Ji-gun about the failed date. She frankly said that if she had known this would happen, she would have gone to dinner with Ji-gun in the first place. It turned out that the night before, Ji-gun had driven Hee-jin to the date location. When he saw that Jae-yeol was taking a long time to reply to Hee-jin's text, Ji-gun tactfully asked her to have dinner with him, but Hee-jin was eagerly waiting for Jae-yeol to come, so she happily got out of the car. After Hee-jin left, Ji-gun discovered that she had left her lipstick in the car. When he chased after her to return it, he accidentally witnessed Jae-yeol kissing Hee-jin. He originally thought that he would soon receive news that the two were officially dating, but it ended in an unhappy way. Ji-gun's sinking heart began to have hope again. During the student union activity that Hee-jin and Jae-yeol participated in, Ji-gun enthusiastically invited everyone to drink coffee and even proactively helped Hee-jin distribute flyers. In the middle of the activity, he sought out Jae-yeol to talk privately. He blamed Jae-yeol for always telling Hee-jin the truth but hurting her time and time again, and warned Jae-yeol not to make Hee-jin sad again. After the event ended, he used the excuse of congratulating Hee-jin's roommate to invite her and her two friends to his house for a sumptuous dinner. The two roommates quickly realized that his real purpose was to comfort Hee-jin's broken heart. Under the questioning of her friends, Hee-jin frankly admitted that she and Jae-yeol had broken up. It turned out that before going to Ji-gun's house, the roommates saw Jae-yeol handing out flyers alone, so they wanted to get Hee-jin to stay and help and nurture their relationship. But Hee-jin coldly refused and insisted on going to Ji-gun's house with her friends. Hearing Hee-jin's reason for drawing a clear line with Jae-yeol, the roommates were all indignant on her behalf. They thought that giving up on Jae-yeol, who was still in a relationship with his ex-girlfriend, was the right choice. After a few drinks, the two roommates were a bit drunk, leaving only Hee-jin sober and sitting down to confide in Ji-gun. Ji-gun was worried that she would be cold, so he thoughtfully covered her with a thin blanket. Hee-jin exclaimed that Ji-gun was both handsome and gentle, and she even joked that if another girl was treated like that, she would definitely misunderstand his feelings. Feeling the somewhat ambiguous concern in Ji-gun's words, Hee-jin felt a little uncomfortable and stood up to change the subject by praising the beautiful night view. She didn't notice that Ji-gun's eyes were always on her, and he couldn't help but exclaim that the real beauty was her. The two were chatting harmoniously, not knowing that Jae-yeol was in a bad mood and had been drinking all night to drown his sorrows. After he regained consciousness, Hee-jin's disappointed eyes kept appearing in his mind, causing his heart to ache again. The student council continued to prepare for the school's anniversary activities. A girl came to chat with Hee-jin, saying that the most anticipated activity of the festival was the public confession. Hee-jin expressed her opinion that any girl who was confessed to in front of a crowd would definitely definitely be very happy, because that meant the other person loved her so much that he was willing to publicly declare his love to the world. Jaehyul cut out the confession slogans while listening to their conversation. His eyes lingered on the words, "I want to spend Christmas with you," for a long time before falling into thought. The preparations were finally over, and Hee-jin left the student union office first. But she was shocked to see Jaehyul's mother being pulled by the hair by a professor's wife and being insulted as a fox spirit who stole her husband. She quickly ran over to stop the two and advised them to calm down and talk. In the midst of the curious crowd, the professor's wife loudly proclaimed that Jaehyul's mother was a seducer of married men. Jaehyul's mother immediately refuted, claiming that the poor professor had lied to her that he was single, so she was the one who was harmed in this matter. At that moment, Jaehyul rushed forward to block in front of his mother, bowed his head to apologize to the professor's wife to calm the situation, then quickly pulled his mother away from the chaotic crowd. After arriving at a secluded place, he angrily criticized his mother for embarrassing him. His mother agitatedly shouted that it was the professor who pretended to be single to deceive her feelings. She felt extremely heartbroken because her son not only did not defend her, but also followed outsiders to criticize her. She thought that there was nothing wrong with her being truly in love. The mistake was on the part of the professor who had toyed with her feelings. His mother's words made Jaehyul unconsciously think of himself. Perhaps in Hee-jin's eyes, he was also someone who toyed with feelings and then did not take responsibility. An indecisive bastard, just like that professor. He could no longer continue to criticize his mother. He could only turn around and quietly leave. That night, Jaehyul was alone in his sorrow. His mother's story and the pain he had unintentionally caused, Hee-jin made him extremely disappointed in himself. But he didn't expect that Hee-jin would suddenly appear in front of him. Hee-jin remembered the scandal this morning. She felt sorry for Jaehyul, having to endure everyone's prying eyes. So, after thinking for a while, she decided to take him to her secret place to comfort him. Jaehyul took this opportunity to apologize to her. He explained that the kiss on the date night was just a spontaneous action in a moment of confusion because he wanted to keep her. There was absolutely no intention to take advantage or tease. Hee-jin looked at Jaehyul's sincere expression and decided to believe what he said. However, before she could say words of forgiveness, the area security came to ask the two to leave. Hee-jin returned home to find her father rearranging the content of her mother's interview while her mother was leisurely reading a magazine. When her father saw the handsome man on the cover of the magazine, he became jealous and said that he was her mother's ex-boyfriend. The two of them used to be a famous celebrity couple, and that year everyone thought her father could not compare to that charming man. But her father never gave up because he always believed that true love would belong to the one who had the courage to pursue it to the end. Her father's words rekindled hope in Hee-jin's heart. Perhaps this courage and perseverance were also needed between her and Jaehyul. Hee-jin wanted to give Jaehyul another chance. At this moment, Jaehyul's roommate, who saw the problem between the two, decided to become an unwilling matchmaker. He lied that Jaehyul had a bad cold and that he was busy and could not take care of him, so he asked Hee-jin to bring porridge and a laptop to his house to help. When Hee-jin nervously rang the doorbell, she didn't expect So-yeon to open the door. So-yeon acted naturally like the landlady. She said that Jaehyul was resting and told Hee-jin to just give her the things. Hee-jin was not willing to accept it. She asked So-yeon to tell Jaehyul that she had arrived. Jaehyul didn't know what was going on. When he woke up and saw So-yeon at his house, he sat up in shock. He immediately asked So-yeon to keep his distance and not to appear at his house again. But in So-yeon's eyes, the fact that Jaehyul didn't change the door lock password was proof that he was still attached to the past. Jaehyul didn't want to explain much. He saw the porridge and computer on the table and asked if someone had just arrived. So-yeon hid the fact that Hee-jin was the one who came. She only vaguely said that her friends came by to drop off things. The next day, the school festival officially took place. Ji-gun's younger sister asked her brother to go with her to see the exhibition, but Ji-gun firmly refused. He said that he had promised to go with Hee-jin to the festival. Then, ignoring his younger sister's sulky eyes, he hurriedly went to find Hee-jin. The festival was packed with people. Jaehyul was busy taking photos of the event, but from time to time, he would secretly glance at Hee-jin and Ji-gun standing together. Hee-jin's eyes also unconsciously turned towards him. So-yeon, as the host, realized the delicate atmosphere between the two, so she deliberately asked Jaehyul to help her adjust her headphones to annoy Hee-jin. Seeing their intimate gestures, Hee-jin felt extremely uncomfortable. Ji-gun noticed her down mood, so he bent down and asked her if she was okay. This scene caught Jaehyul's eye again, making him suppress his jealousy. The four people were caught up in a complicated relationship without knowing that the basketball player from last time, was also present at the festival to observe. The festival went to the most anticipated public confession. Seo-yeon took down a piece of paper with a confession from the tree and successfully matched up a couple who had a crush on each other. She took the second piece of paper and discovered that the person being confessed to was Hee-jin. She glanced at Jae-yeol, stunned for a moment, then gritted her teeth and invited Hee-jin to the stage and read out loud the confession that someone wanted to spend Christmas with Hee-jin. Amidst everyone's cheers, Hee-jin stepped onto the stage, her eyes unconsciously searching for Jae-yeol, her heart filled with hope that the person confessing was him. However, when Seo-yeon invited the letter's owner to the stage, Jae-yeol did not make any move. Seeing that no guy came up, the audience began to whisper. Everyone suspected that this was just a malicious joke. Hee-jin was left alone on the stage. She was both embarrassed and confused. At this moment, Ji-gun slowly walked out from the crowd. He went up to the stage and stood firmly beside her. So-yeon had no choice but to follow the program's script. She invited Ji-gun and Hee-jin to look at each other for 10 seconds on stage. Ji-gun looked at Hee-jin affectionately. Hee-jin also returned his gaze to be polite, but there was not a trace of love in her eyes. At the end of the event, Hee-jin asked Ji-gun why he came up on stage to relieve her. Ji-gun frankly admitted that he had written the confession card. While helping Hee-jin clean up the stage, Ji-gun put the cards he had collected in the warehouse. At this time, Jae-yeol went to question Ji-gun why he went on stage, because he knew that the card was clearly not written by Ji-gun, because Jae-yeol was the one who wrote it, but didn't dare to go on stage. Ji-gun was no longer as patient as usual. He blamed Jae-yeol for having a hard time writing a confession, but not daring to stand up and accept it in front of Hee-jin, proving that his feelings were only that far. Jae-yeol heard the sarcasm in Ji-gun's words and reminded him to remember that as Hee-jin's older brother, his current actions had gone beyond the limits of friends. Ji-gun responded firmly that he hated Jae-yeol's indecisiveness. He really couldn't stand Hee-jin dating such a weak man, so he decided to officially pursue Hee-jin. After cleaning up the stage, everyone discovered that Jae-yeol had left first and taken the group's camera with him, so they discussed sending someone to look for him. Hee-jin ignored Ji-gun's objections and took the initiative to ask to look for him. The reason was because when he left, Jae-yeol had texted that he wanted to talk clearly with her, so she was curious about what he wanted to say. She just didn't expect So-yeon to be in Jae-yeol's office at the moment. It turned out that before Hee-jin arrived, So-yeon had brought lunch to Jae-yeol to congratulate him on the success of the event. Jae-yeol didn't want to be entangled with So-yeon anymore, so he decided to question the reason and the suffering that made her suddenly disappear all those years ago. He hoped that the two of them would clear things up once and for all, so that they would not have any more problems in the future. Seeing So-yeon hesitate to answer, he thought that the so-called suffering was just her lie, so he angrily left So-yeon and left the office. So-yeon was about to leave when Hee-jin arrived. So-yeon warned Hee-jin that she and Jae-yeol broke up because of unavoidable reasons, and Jae-yeol would soon come back to her. Hee-jin did not want So-yeon to affect the relationship between her and Jae-yeol, so she firmly retorted that her and Jae-yeol's business was not for an outsider like So-yeon to interfere. Although she refused to give up, Hee-jin was still worried about the ambiguous relationship between them, but she didn't expect Ji-gun, who had announced his decision to pursue her, to act so quickly. He took the initiative to pick her up from school and even kindly helped her fasten her seatbelt. However, as soon as the two of them arrived at school, they saw a crowd surrounding So-yeon, taking pictures and chatting excitedly. It turned out that an article suddenly appeared online saying that So-yeon's mother was suspected of being in debt and had run away. When So-yeon saw everyone around her pointing their phones at her, she was so scared that her face turned pale. She had difficulty breathing, and the phone in her hand fell to the ground. Just as she tried to pick up the phone, Jae-yeol suddenly appeared to help her pick it up. He grabbed her hand and pulled her away from the encirclement. Things had come to this point. So-yeon had no choice but to tell the truth about their breakup years ago. That year, her mother lost money in an investment and was scammed. Not only did she lose all the money she worked hard to earn, but she also incited her to borrow money from Jae-yeol, who came from a wealthy family. She didn't dare tell Jae-yeol about these shameful things. Unexpectedly, her mother secretly went to borrow money from Jae-yeol's mother. She was extremely ashamed and angry, so she rushed in to return the money and apologize to his mother. After her family was scammed out of money, she was forced to drop out of school and go to work elsewhere. In order to keep her last bit of self-respect in front of her lover, she lied that she was going to study abroad. Now she came back because she thought she would no longer be self-conscious because of that past. She hoped to be able to rekindle their old love. Knowing the truth, Jae-yeol felt extremely heartbroken spoken for her. To avoid the reporters surrounding Seoyeon's house to disturb her, he let her stay at his house temporarily, and he moved to sleep in his office. Hee-jin did not know the inside story. She kept remembering the image of Jae-yeol holding Seoyeon's hand and leading her away. Combined with the content of the article, she believed even more that the two of them had their own troubles and would soon get back together. Because she was immersed in negative thoughts, Hee-jin did not notice that the cart that her classmate behind her was pushing was about to hit her. Luckily, Ji-gun was quick-witted and rushed to shield her. Looking at Ji-gun's worried face, Hee-jin remembered the moment they looked at each other on stage and when he gently helped her put on her seatbelt. But ironically, such a handsome and warm Ji-gun could not make her heart flutter. She thanked Ji-gun for saving her. Ji-gun took this opportunity to invite her to dinner on the weekend. At the same time, at Seoyeon's request, Jae-yeol took her to their old classroom. That year, after receiving their acceptance letter, the two of them secretly went to the university classroom to see where they would be staying. Seoyeon happily wrote on the table, "Jae-yeol likes Seoyeon." She hoped that their feelings would always be sweet and passionate. Jae-yeol woke up from his memories. The memories were beautiful, but unfortunately they could not return to them now. Leaving the classroom, the two of them accidentally met Hee-jin and Ji-gun, who had just walked out of the drawing room. Jae-yeol and Hee-jin looked at each other, their eyes filled with unspeakable emotions. Seoyeon realized the tension between the two of them. She immediately grabbed Jae-yeol's sleeve right in front of Hee-jin, using a possessive action to declare her sovereignty. Ji-gun saw Hee-jin was sad and took her away. On the weekend, Ji-gun and Hee-jin went out to dinner as planned. Hee-jin's cheerful expression while shopping made Ji-gun very happy. Suddenly, it started to rain heavily. Ji-gun went to buy an umbrella and told Hee-jin to wait there. Hee-jin stood by the window watching the rain. She couldn't help but remember the scene where she and Jae-yeol ran in the rain together. She didn't know that at this moment, Jae-yeol was also watching the rain and his mind was filled with her image. In another development, Jae-yeol was also dragged by Seoyeon to go shopping. He couldn't share his joy with Seoyeon because he was always thinking about Hee-jin. When Ji-gun took Hee-jin to the restaurant for dinner, coincidentally, as soon as they entered the door, they met Jae-yeol and Seoyeon. The four of them looked at each other. The atmosphere became extremely awkward. At this moment, the waiter, who was not at all tactful, announced that all the other tables were occupied and suggested that the four of them sit together at a large table. When Ji-gun and Hee-jin reluctantly sat down, Seoyeon deliberately paired them up. She asked if they had officially started dating after their confession at the festival and praised them as a match made in heaven. Hee-jin was restless and accidentally spilled water on her clothes, so she hurriedly ran to the bathroom to clean it up. Jae-yeol was also restless, so he immediately chased after her and waited in front of the bathroom door. When Hee-jin came out, Jae-yeol asked her if she was dating Ji-gun. Seeing her being so close to another man, he felt very uncomfortable. Hee-jin sarcastically said that he had no right to interfere in her affairs and asked them not to interfere in each other's affairs in the future. Returning to his seat, Ji-gun kindly escorted Hee-jin away. Seoyeon was unhappy because Jae-yeol kept losing his mind because of another girl. Jae-yeol could no longer bear it. He seriously told Seoyeon that although they broke up because she had her own troubles, he could not go back to her now because he liked Hee-jin. He ignored Seoyeon, who was crying and apologizing, resolutely stood up and chased after Hee-jin. Hee-jin heard his call and immediately stopped. Ji-gun grabbed Hee-jin's hand, intending to not let her go, but this time, Hee-jin firmly removed Ji-gun's hand and walked towards Jae-yeol. This time, Jae-yeol no longer hesitated. He loudly confessed his love to her in the middle of the street. Hee-jin could no longer hold back her feelings. She tiptoed to kiss Jae-yeol, using the sweetest action to respond to his feelings. Just yesterday, Hee-jin and Jae-yeol officially dated. The two walked to school hand in hand and publicly declared their sweet affection in front of everyone. Seeing the intimate scene of the new couple, Ji-gun couldn't help but feel sad. Hee-jin went to Ji-gun to apologize. She honestly said that she believed in Jae-yeol's sincere feelings and hoped to go further. With him, Ji-gun smiled and congratulated Hee-jin on achieving her wish and told her not to worry about him. However, when he looked at the gift that he had prepared but hadn't had time to give, a feeling of regret welled up in his heart. After that, Hee-jin was completely immersed in happiness with Jae-yeol. Like many other couples in love, they went out together, dated, and experienced romantic activities for lovers. Jae-yeol cooked for Hee-jin himself, and she helped him mend his broken relationship with his mother. Time flew by. From warm spring to cool autumn, they had been together for 100 days. However, in the midst of those sweet days, neither of them realized that a big storm was quietly approaching. Hee-jin's ex-boyfriend, who had been expelled from school because of the previous noisy breakup, suddenly reappeared at school today. He saw a photo of Ji Ji-gun confessing to Hee-jin during the festival posted on the school forum and misunderstood that the two were dating. When he learned that Ji-gun was the son of a wealthy family, he felt extremely indignant and jealous, thinking that if he lived a miserable life, Hee-jin would have no hope of being happy. At this time, Hee-jin and Ji-gun had just finished school. Ji-gun offered to invite Hee-jin to dinner, but Hee-jin remembered that a female student who had a crush on Ji-gun had once asked her to create an opportunity to be alone with him. Therefore, Hee-jin tactfully refused Ji-gun's invitation and pushed him to go with her friend. Ji-gun didn't think much of it. He agreed to go to the cafeteria with her, while Hee-jin stayed alone in the drawing room to work on her final work. She wanted to try her best to get the highest score to win an important scholarship. At this moment, the ex-boyfriend sneaked into the studio. He loudly criticized Hee-jin for ruining his life, while she herself was happily dating a rich young man. He even suspected that Hee-jin had intended to abandon him to flirt with Ji-gun from the beginning. Hee-jin hurriedly explained that she and Ji-gun had no relationship, but the ex-boyfriend did not give her a chance to explain. He angrily lifted the sculpting hammer to attack her. In the critical moment, Jaeol called. Hee-jin had just screamed for help when the hammer came down heavily. Hee-jin looked at her beloved sculpture shattered. She angrily scolded her ex-boyfriend as a crazy person, but he seemed to have lost all reason. He raised the hammer again to continue attacking her. At the critical moment, Ji-gun suddenly rushed in. He bravely pinned his ex-boyfriend down on the table and ordered Hee-jin to call the police immediately. The other guy took the opportunity to fight back, injuring Ji-gun, but fortunately, the police arrived on the scene in time and took him away. At this time, Jaeol ran to Hee-jin, panting, worriedly asking if she was hurt anywhere, and repeatedly apologizing for being late. The ex-boyfriend was still not satisfied. He shouted that he only wanted to talk to Hee-jin, but her boyfriend attacked first. Jaeol immediately understood that he had mistaken Ji-gun for Hee-jin's boyfriend. On the way home with Hee-jin, Jaeol once again apologized for not being there in time to protect her. Hee-jin did not blame him, but blamed herself for making him worry. Because the sculpture was broken, Hee-jin had to redo the final exam from the beginning. She was extremely worried because she was afraid that she would not be able to submit her work on time, leading to not receiving the scholarship and increasing the financial burden on her parents. Ji-gun assured her that he would do his best to help her, and two friends who were making the statue also offered to help. One of the two girls took out her phone and was surprised to see that someone had posted about Hee-jin on the forum. It turned out that someone had spread the story of Ji-gun, the hero saving the beauty, online, causing many people to mistakenly think that Ji-gun was Hee-jin's boyfriend and were jealous because she had a boyfriend who was handsome, rich, and infatuated. Hee-jin was worried that Jaeol would misunderstand, so she immediately called him and told him not to pay attention to the false rumors online. Jaeol gently comforted her, saying that he wouldn't pay attention to people who didn't understand because he was her official boyfriend after all. To assert his sovereignty, Jaeol brought some late-night snacks to the studio to find Hee-jin. Seeing Hee-jin and Ji-gun standing close together while editing their work, his roommate blurted out jokingly that no wonder there were rumors about the two of them. Jaeol pretended not to care, telling them to eat first before continuing. But while eating, he said bluntly that all the food was bought for Hee-jin, implying that Ji-gun was the only one left here. Ji-gun didn't mind that. Seeing that Hee-jin's sleeve was about to touch the food, he quickly reached out to block it and reminded Hee-jin to be careful. After coming to his senses, he felt that his intimate action just now was a bit inappropriate, so he quickly explained to Jaeol that it was just a natural reflex. Feeling the strange and tense atmosphere, Hee-jin stood up and went to the bathroom. Jaeol no longer hid his jealousy. He seriously warned Ji-gun to keep his distance from Hee-jin. In order to finish her final work as soon as possible, Hee-jin worked hard in the studio every day, and Ji-gun always enthusiastically stayed to help her. Today, Hee-jin worked until late at night. Her phone ran out of battery and turned off, so she didn't see the message Jaeol sent. Jaeol waited all night without seeing Hee-jin reply and couldn't get through when he called her, so he was extremely anxious. He hurriedly ran to Hee-jin's house, and only when he saw that she was safe and sound did he feel relieved. Hee-jin's parents warmly welcomed him. Not only did they compliment him on his handsomeness, but they were also very happy to see that he liked home-cooked food. Jaeol hadn't felt the warmth of a family for a long time, so he secretly envied Hee-jin for having such loving parents. At the same time, he also asked Hee-jin not to lose contact no matter how late it was. Another night of working all night, Ji-gun saw Hee-jin fall asleep on the sofa because she was too tired. He wanted to go over and cover her with a blanket but tried to hold back, reminding himself that Hee-jin had a boyfriend. Until he was about to go home and Hee-jin still hadn't woken up, he was was afraid she would be cold, so he gently covered her with a blanket. But this scene happened to be seen by Jae-yeol. Jae-yeol looked at Ji-gun with a displeased expression, then immediately woke Hee-jin up and wanted to take her home right away. The next day, it was Hee-jin and her friend's turn to be commented on by the teacher. Unfortunately, due to the time crunch, Hee-jin didn't get the highest score as expected. She was extremely worried because this meant she would lose her scholarship. Ji-gun comforted Hee-jin, telling her to try harder next time. Before Hee-jin could say anything, she received a phone call from her mother. Hearing her sobbing and saying that she was at the police station, she hurriedly ran there. It turned out that her father had been gullible, listening to an acquaintance's words and investing 50 million won, only to be scammed out of everything. He had originally intended to earn money to improve the family's financial situation, so that even if Hee-jin didn't get a scholarship, she wouldn't have to worry about tuition fees. But unexpectedly, he lost everything. Hee-jin returned home in a state of anxiety and despair. At this time, she received a phone call from Jae-yeol. He excitedly announced that his entry had made it to the finals and was certain to win. Hee-jin held back her sadness to congratulate Jae-yeol. Then she tried to act comfortable and said that her entry wasn't rated the highest, so she needed to continue working hard. Jae-yeol invited her to join his and his roommate's celebration party. Hee-jin hid her family problems and lied that she had been staying up late doing homework for the past few days and was tired, so she wanted to rest. After hanging up the phone, her two roommates invited her out to relax. Both her roommates and Ji-gun already knew about her family problems, so they drank with her to help her relieve her sadness. Not knowing what happened, on the way to the party, Jae-yeol's intuition made him stop. He told his roommates to go on ahead and he would go back to Hee-jin, but he couldn't call Hee-jin. Soon after, he received a call from his roommate saying that Hee-jin was with Ji-gun and the others. Jae-yeol hurried to Hee-jin's place. At this time, the group of four had just finished their meal. The two drunken roommates were helping each other go home, while Ji-gun was taking the drunken and Hee-jin to sit on the side of the road to sober up. Seeing Hee-jin staggering and tired, he let her head rest on his shoulder. The scene of Hee-jin resting her head on Ji-gun's shoulder was the first thing Jae-yeol saw when he arrived. He immediately rushed to hug Hee-jin, his eyes full of anger and hostility staring straight at Ji-gun. When Hee-jin woke up from last night's drunkenness, images of the fierce confrontation between Jae-yeol and Ji-gun and the scene of Jae-yeol taking her home appeared in her mind one after another. Hee-jin quickly found Jae-yeol to explain that she was dragged out drinking by her two roommates. After speaking, she reached out to Jae-yeol, asking for his forgiveness. However, Jae-yeol was still angry and refused her handshake to make peace. Hee-jin was extremely sad. To avoid similar misunderstandings in the future, she went to see Ji-gun and said that there were too many rumors about their relationship in school. In order to prevent Jae-yeol from misunderstanding, she decided to keep an absolute distance from Ji-gun in the future. At this time, Jae-yeol was still angry and locked himself in the studio. His roommate ordered food for him, and surprisingly, the delivery person was Hee-jin's father. Hee-jin's father told Jae-yeol that the family was having financial difficulties, and he wanted him to keep the fact that he was working as a shipper a secret. Jae-yeol agreed to keep this a secret. As for Hee-jin, she received a rare opportunity. The teacher gave her a flyer about the overseas scholarship program, saying that she could apply to study at the New York School of Fine Arts for a year with full tuition and living expenses covered. The teacher also added that no one in the school had ever applied for this prestigious scholarship before, but she had great confidence in Hee-jin's collection of works and would write a letter of recommendation for her. When she got home, Hee-jin submitted the application and completed the necessary procedures. She wanted to go find Jae-yeol to make up, but when she opened the door, she saw Jae-yeol standing in front of her house. Hee-jin's mother enthusiastically invited Jae-yeol into the house for dinner and even specially created a private space for the young couple to talk. Jae-yeol asked Hee-jin why she drank so much that day. Hee-jin immediately told him the whole story of her father being scammed out of money. At that time, she wanted to tell Jae-yeol, but because he had just received the good news that his work was selected, she did not want to ruin her boyfriend's mood. After understanding everything, Jae-yeol sat down in front of Hee-jin, asking her to tell him no matter what happened in the future, because he wanted to be the one to always be by her side. Share with her. Hee-jin nodded in agreement. Then she told Jae-yeol about her application to study abroad in New York for a year. Because she had only just applied and the results were not out yet, Jaeol did not show much emotion. After that, the two of them looked at Heejin's childhood photo album together. A photo of Heejin with a boy caught Jaeol's attention. Next to the photo was a line saying that Heejin and Hyun loved each other. Jaeol asked Heejin if Hyun was her first love. Heejin hesitantly said that Hyun was just a neighbor, and at the same time, she tried to hide the photo album because she didn't want Jaeol to see it carefully. The two people fighting over the album accidentally got closer to each other. Just at that moment, Heejin's father suddenly opened the door. The two quickly separated. Heejin's father smiled and called them out to see the first snow of the season. The four of them stood in front of the door watching the white snowfall, being with her loving parents and the person she loved. At this moment, Heejin felt extremely happy and peaceful. After the stressful interview, Heejin received the news that she had been accepted to the scholarship program. Her parents were so happy that they couldn't speak. They were extremely proud of their talented daughter. All this time, Heejin had always tried to keep her distance from Ji-gun, so Ji-gun didn't know she was about to study abroad, and while feeling sad about being shunned, Ji-gun suddenly received a phone call from his sister. She said that she wanted to go to America to get used to life before entering school and wanted Ji-gun to take a year off to go with her. Ji-gun looked at the gift he hadn't given yet. He remembered what Heejin said about keeping his distance, feeling depressed, so he agreed to his sister's request. At the same time, Heejin asked Jae-yul out to eat to celebrate his successful scholarship application. As soon as he sat down, he received a text message from Heejin's father. It turned out that Heejin's father came to this restaurant to pick up food to deliver, and he asked Jae-yul to distract his daughter for him. Jae-yul deliberately sat close to Heejin because he was afraid that she would find out something. However, when Heejin turned around, she still saw the back of the delivery man and felt that he looked very much like her father. To hide the truth, Jae-yul lied that he had seen the delivery man's face and insisted that it was not her father. Heejin believed him, so she didn't think anything more. After the meal, Jae-yul suddenly received a phone call from the hospital informing him that Heejin's father had been in a traffic accident and was being treated. The two hurried to the hospital. Seeing her father still wearing his delivery uniform, Heejin immediately understood that the delivery man was her father. The nurse said that her father had broken his right arm and leg and needed urgent surgery. However, the hospital's surgery schedule was full and they were contacting other hospitals, but the situation was not very optimistic. Seeing Heejin and her mother extremely worried, Jae-yul had no choice but to contact Ji-gun because this was a hospital belonging to Ji-gun's family corporation. Ji-gun immediately found a leading professor who was on leave and asked him to personally operate on Heejin's father. The surgery was very successful. Heejin and her mother continuously thanked Ji-gun. Jae-yul also sent his sincere thanks to him. Ji-gun, in turn, thanked Jae-yul for contacting him, that he could have the opportunity to help. Heejin was surprised to learn that the person the hospital contacted when her father had an accident was Jae-yul, not her. Only then did Jae-yul confess that he had known that Heejin's father had delivered the goods and had promised to keep it a secret. He blamed himself for not being able to help much in this matter. Heejin held his hand to comfort him, saying that Jae-yul, being by her side today, was her greatest comfort and support. The day Heejin's father was discharged from the hospital was also Christmas. The whole family invited Jae-yul to come early to decorate the room and enjoy a cozy dinner together. While shopping for decorations, Heejin's mother happened to see Ji-gun loitering in front of the house. She asked Ji-gun if he was looking for Heejin, but Ji-gun lied that he was just passing by and quickly left. Heejin's mother came back and told her about meeting Ji-gun. Heejin guessed that Ji-gun was looking for her, so she told Jae-yul and hurriedly ran out to call Ji-gun back. She asked him if he had anything to say to her. Ji-gun said that he was going to New York with his sister and came to say goodbye to her. Ji-gun kept stuttering and couldn't give Heejin the gift he was holding, and Heejin also didn't tell Ji-gun that she was also going to New York to study. Heejin honestly told Jae-yul that Ji-gun was also going to New York and had just come to say goodbye. Afraid that Jae-yul would be sad and jealous, she quickly explained that Ji-gun had no idea that she was also going to America, and she promised not to contact Ji-gun while there. Even though Heejin had promised many times, Jae-yul still couldn't help but feel jealous and insecure. The long-distance relationship had already made him miserable, and now that he knew that his love rival Ji-gun and his girlfriend would be in the same city, he found it even harder to accept. Jae-yeol tried his best to hold on to Hee-jin, hoping that she would reconsider staying for his sake. Hee-jin comforted him, promising firmly that she wouldn't see Ji-gun while in America, and hoping that Jae-yeol would trust her. But Jae-yeol couldn't rest assured, and the two parted ways in an unhappy atmosphere. Hee-jin worriedly asked her mother how to balance her career and the person she loves if she didn't want to give up either. Her mother advised that no one could predict the future, but always listen to your heart at this moment. Don't let yourself regret it. Receiving the advice, Hee-jin proactively sought out Jae-yeol to express her opinion. She honestly said that she didn't want to miss this precious opportunity to study abroad and hoped that Jae-yeol would understand her decision. However, Jae-yeol asked back why Hee-jin didn't understand him, because in this long-distance relationship, he really couldn't give in. Hee-jin realized Jae-yeol's intention to break up. She said that she was willing to wait for his final answer, hoping that the two wouldn't go their separate ways because of this. Christmas Eve was also the day Hee-jin left for America. She texted Jae-yeol, expressing her wish to see him one last time before leaving. At that time, Jae-yeol was busy attending the selection of works, so he did not have time to reply to Hee-jin's message. Hee-jin was taken to the airport by her parents and two roommates. She kept looking around, but still could not see Jae-yeol anywhere. At this time, Jae-yeol had just finished work. He remembered every moment with Hee-jin, and in his heart arose the utmost fear of losing her. He hurriedly handed over the task of displaying the works to his roommate and ran to the airport, but unfortunately, he was too late. Hee-jin's plane had already taken off to another place. Jae-yeol saw Hee-jin's message telling him to take care of his health, and his heart was filled with regret for missing the chance to say goodbye to the person he loved. He sadly deleted Hee-jin's birthday reminder from his phone, implicitly admitting that this love was really over. A year later, Hee-jin finished her studies and returned to Korea. The first thing she did was meet her two close roommates to reminisce about the past. During the conversation, a friend accidentally mentioned Jae-yeol's name, causing Hee-jin to suddenly feel sad. For the past year, she and Jae-yeol had not contacted each other even once. Thinking about having to go back to school tomorrow to avoid an awkward situation, she sincerely hoped that she would not accidentally run into Jae-yeol. However, as fate would have it, they both chose the same class. Jae-yeol's roommate arrived at class first. He saw Hee-jin and ran out to stop Jae-yeol, advising him to skip this class and choose another one. Jae-yeol, not understanding what was going on, took the opportunity to sneak into the classroom. The moment he saw Hee-jin, he froze, unable to take his eyes off her face. Hee-jin also stared at him blankly. The longing that had been suppressed for so long suddenly surged up in her heart like rolling waves. When class time came, both of them quickly withdrew their gazes and tried to calm down. But throughout the entire class, Hee-jin's eyes were still unconsciously directed towards Jae-yeol's back. That was the person she missed day and night. Even though their current relationship was no longer the same as before, she still could not forget this deep feeling. As for Jae-yeol, he couldn't stand the suffocating feeling of being in the same space with his ex-lover. So as soon as school ended, he hurriedly left the classroom. Hee-jin walked out of the classroom with a disappointed look on her face. At this time, Ji-gun, who returned to the country a little later, called her over, and the two sat down to chat. Ji-gun asked her if she had seen Jae-yeol, and Hee-jin honestly told him everything. She thought that after meeting again, she could go back to the way things were, but his cold attitude seemed to show that Jae-yeol was determined to break up and had no intention of making up. Ji-gun couldn't bear to see her sad, so he called two more roommates to gather. The four of them went shopping and played games together. Hee-jin lost, so she had to be punished to buy drinks for the other three. When she walked out of the convenience store, the cans of water in her hand suddenly fell to the ground because she met Jae-yeol again. It turned out that Jae-yeol was also hanging out with friends nearby. The daytime encounter had left him confused, so he went out for a bit of fresh air, but he didn't expect to meet Hee-jin again. The tension made him awkwardly greet her politely. Realizing his awkwardness, Hee-jin hurriedly picked up the can of water and was about to leave. Unexpectedly, Jae-yeol was so nervous that he accidentally opened the can of water, causing the water to splash all over his hand. He couldn't maintain his cool composure anymore, so he hurriedly returned to the convenience store to throw the can away. After that little incident, Hee-jin continued her normal school life. She went to the library to work part-time and unexpectedly unexpectedly met Jae-yeol there. The two almost bumped into each other. Jae-yeol quickly apologized and quickly left. Heejin watched his back, disappointed that the distance between them was getting further and further, to the point where they could no longer talk normally. As soon as Jae-yeol left the library, his roommate told him that Heejin might drop out of that class because studying with an ex-lover was awkward anyway. After thinking about it, Jae-yeol took the initiative to drop out of the class, hoping that his withdrawal would not affect Heejin's studies. At this time, Jae-yeol saw Heejin struggling to hang a banner alone. Seeing that the banner was about to fall and that she had difficulty handling it alone, he stepped forward to help. As soon as Heejin saw Jae-yeol, she immediately remembered his sweet, drunken confession years ago. The beautiful memories were still imprinted in her heart, but unfortunately, everything was different now. After helping her hang the banner, Jae-yeol gently told Heejin that he would drop this class and would not appear in front of her again. He thought that doing so would make Heejin feel more comfortable, but she unexpectedly felt extremely disappointed. On the way home, Heejin was stopped by a flyer handler dressed in a dinosaur costume. She was annoyed and refused to accept the flyer, but the moment the person took off his hood, she was surprised to realize that the person in front of her was Hunho, her neighbor and first love. She exclaimed happily, because since Hunho moved away, the two of them had not seen each other for 6 years. Hunho remembered that he used to go to Heejin's school to play basketball. At that time he saw her but did not say anything, and just secretly made friends with her on social media. Not knowing about the appearance of his first love Heejin, Jae-yeol was invited to participate in a TV show, and the remaining guest was Hunho. Jae-yeol was not interested in the show and did not know Hunho, so he only said that he would consider it. After meeting the program's planner, Ji-gun suddenly went to see Jae-yeol. He blamed himself for being the cause of their breakup. Now, he has completely given up on his feelings for Heejin and only sees her as a sister. Ji-gun also told Jae-yeol that whether in Korea or America, Heejin only has him in her heart. He hopes Jae-yeol will not miss this opportunity. As soon as he finished speaking, Hunho came to ask for directions to the sculpture department. Jae-yeol felt that Hunho seemed familiar, but it was only when he saw Heejin walking with him that he remembered that he had seen Hunho in Heejin's childhood photo album, that he was her first love. Knowing that Hunho was the guest who would join the program with him, Jae-yeol's competitive spirit arose, and he immediately agreed to join. Heejin was completely unaware that Hunho's appearance had disturbed Jae-yeol's mind. She asked Hunho if he came to find her on purpose. Hunho honestly said that he came here to play basketball, had seen her around the basketball court, and even participated in the school festival. The love note asking her to go out on Christmas Eve was written by him. Heejin always thought it was written by Ji-gun or Jae-yeol, but she didn't expect it to be written by Hunho. Before they broke up, Hunho asked her to go record a show with him this weekend to cheer him on, and Heejin happily agreed right away. On the day of the recording, under everyone's admiring gazes, Jae-yeol walked into the studio dressed smartly. He considered Hunho as his rival, so during the filming he always tried to outshine him to attract Heejin's attention. During the interview, the host asked if the two were in love. Jae-yeol looked at Heejin and slowly replied that he currently didn't have a girlfriend. Hunho also looked at Heejin and said that the person he liked was still his first love. At the end of the show, the planner gave two guests tickets to the hot air balloon so they could take the person they liked with them. Hunho immediately gave the tickets to Heejin and invited her to go with him tomorrow night. Heejin looked at Jae-yeol but couldn't bear to refuse Hunho's earnest gaze, so she finally agreed. Jae-yeol couldn't calm down anymore, so in order to keep an eye on the two, he invited his roommate to go with him but was refused. After that, he had to beg and whine to get Ji-gun to go with him. Ji-gun took the cotton candy from Jae-yeol, thinking it was strange that two men were going on a hot air balloon together. It wasn't until he noticed Jae-yeol staring intently at Heejin that he understood his friend's true intentions. Ji-gun couldn't stand Jae-yeol's hesitation and reminded him that if he didn't act now, he would regret it for the rest of his life. Seeing that Heejin and Hunho were about to board the hot air balloon, Jae-yeol finally mustered up the courage to step forward and pull Heejin back. He didn't want her to board the hot air balloon with another man. Jae-yeol and Hunho revolved around Heejin, starting a fierce emotional battle. Heejin decided to listen to her heart. She gave Jae-yeol a chance to explain because she wanted to know why he stopped her. Jae-yeol honestly said that since Heejin returned to the country, the two of them hadn't had a chance to have a proper conversation. He asked about her life in America and apologized for not understanding her feelings before she went to study abroad. He added that if time could go back, he would definitely say goodbye to her properly. However, Heejin misunderstood his words. She thought that Jae-yeol just wanted to make up for the unspoken farewell from years ago, not to get back together. She angrily went to to find Hun-ho and poured out all her disappointment to him. She thought Jae-yeol came to rekindle their old love, but it turned out that she was just being sentimental. Seeing that the two of them showed no signs of getting back together, Hyun-ho frankly admitted that the first love he mentioned on the show was Hee-jin, and he declared that from now on he would officially pursue her. Elsewhere, Jae-yeol was depressed and dragged Ji-gun out for a drink to drown his sorrows. He hated himself for always being so nervous that he couldn't speak in front of Hee-jin. He wanted to make up but instead made the relationship worse. They both got drunk and were taken home by Jae-yeol's roommate. The next morning, when they woke up, they found that they had hugged each other all night, so they were both embarrassed and quickly separated. Jae-yeol and his roommate were about to submit the completed advertisement to the client, but suddenly discovered that an important hard drive was missing. Jae-yeol thought carefully and remembered that last night when he went to look for Hee-jin, he accidentally left the hard drive in the taxi. The deadline was approaching, and the loss of the hard drive meant that all their efforts were in vain. Jae-yeol's roommate cried and told Hee-jin's roommate about the incident. Hee-jin accidentally heard this scene when she was with Hyun-ho. Although she had made an appointment to go out with Hyun-ho, Hee-jin was still worried about Jae-yeol's condition. She couldn't lie to her heart, so she apologized to Hyun-ho and ran to Jae-yeol, deciding to help him find the hard drive. The two went to the taxi company and learned that the driver was on leave to go back to his hometown. They decided to go to the driver's house in a remote village. When they arrived, they asked the convenience store owner for the driver's address. Just then, the owner went out to pour water and almost splashed Hee-jin. Jae-yeol quickly covered her, so his back was soaked. The boss felt guilty and got Jae-yeol a change of clothes. She said that the driver was taking his mother on a beach trip and had not returned yet. The two of them asked the boss to cook instant noodles to eat while waiting. Taking this opportunity, Jae-yeol asked Hee-jin why she agreed to go with him. Hee-jin blurted out that she was very worried about him. Hearing that, Jae-yeol could no longer contain his feelings. He boldly confessed that he had missed her a lot for the past year. Before Hee-jin could answer, the boss brought the good news that the driver had returned. The two of them got the hard drive back and hitched a ride with the driver back to Seoul. Jae-yeol's words, "I miss you," made Hee-jin's heart flutter. She guessed that Jae-yeol still loved her, and now the only thing missing between the two of them was one word to rekindle their old love. The next day, Hee-jin explained to Hyun-ho why she had to leave first last night. Hyun-ho soon realized her deep feelings for Jae-yeol, so he decided to retreat and become friends again, wishing her all the best. While working part-time, Hee-jin accidentally saw a flyer advertising an interview between Jae-yeol and Hyun-ho. In the interview, Jae-yeol admitted that the reason he hasn't loved anyone is because he's still waiting for his ex-girlfriend who broke up with him a year ago. He really loves her. Hee-jin immediately felt his sincere feelings and couldn't wait to see Jae-yeol. Just then, Jae-yeol called to say he had something to say, and the two rushed to each other. Hee-jin threw herself into Jae-yeol's arms, confessing that she had never forgotten him and had always been waiting for the day they would return. Jae-yeol couldn't control his emotions anymore, and he kissed her passionately. As gradually improving, the two people who loved each other deeply finally returned to each other after many ups and downs. Jae-yeol held Hee-jin's hand and took her home. While kissing goodbye in front of the house, they were unexpectedly caught by Hee-jin's father. After a year, Jae-yeol once again entered Hee-jin's house. Seeing him intently looking at the flower basket hanging on the wall, Hee-jin's mother remembered the past. After Hee-jin went abroad, the two often received 2 flower baskets on Vulan Festival. Knowing that it was not their daughter who gave them, they guessed that it was Jae-yeol's filial piety. The news of the two getting back together was warmly supported by Hee-jin's parents. Jae-yeol also took the initiative to invite his mother out to dinner to tell her the good news. Under Hee-jin's positive influence, he learned to understand his mother better and no longer interfered negatively in her love life. When Jae-yeol's mother came to clean her son's room, she happened to meet Hee-jin's parents, who came over with food. Both families were very pleased with the couple. After a pleasant chat, the 3 adults quietly left to give the young couple some private space. While shopping earlier, Hee-jin wanted to buy a couple ring but was stopped by Jae-yeol. At this moment, he took out the ring he had prepared for a long time, knelt down and put it on Hee-jin's finger. He said that he had bought this gift since he received his first salary and had been waiting for this moment to give it to her. Hee-jin happily put the other ring on Jae-yeol's finger. The two hugged each other tightly, promising to never be apart again. The month-long vacation ended. Ji-gun was supposed to return to America with his sister as scheduled, but his sister decided to return on her own and hoped that her brother would stay in Korea. 15 years after the car accident, she had unintentionally tied Ji-gun down for the past 15 years with guilt. Now that her sister had friends and a new life, she hoped that Ji-gun would not be implicated by her anymore, and would boldly pursue his own dreams. Ji-gun decided to work at the family corporation as an intern, determined to start from the lowest position to gradually grow up. Meanwhile, Jae-yeol, who was about to graduate, had also found a direction for his future career. Hae-jin also met the famous art director who had invited her to cooperate, and her work W. Everyone's life is going in a good direction. Preparing for the date, Hae-jin and Jae-yeol passionately kiss under the blooming cherry tree in school. People who are destined, no matter how far they go, will eventually return to each other. They never regretted loving each other and persevering with that love. The movie ends here. Thank you for following Hae-jin and Jae-yeol's stormy but also extremely sweet love journey. If you like this story, please give us a like and subscribe to the stream channel so you don't miss the next exciting movies. See you again.